Welcome back. So eThekwini residents might pay more for electricity, water and sanitation if the municipality's draft budget is anything to go by. The city says the proposed hefty tariff increases are in line with increases put forward by the uMngeni-uThukela Water as well as Eskom. Well, to give us more clarity, we are joined by eThekwini Mayor Mr. Cyril Xaba this evening. Mayor, good evening to you and thank you so much for joining us. So we've got this draft budget now for the eThekwini municipality, certainly a municipality that is important to the country, but also one that has had quite a few challenges, particularly in recent years. And the total proposed budget, 71.3 billion rand. You can talk to me about, whether or not that, firstly, is sufficient if we look at the total proposed budget, and then, of course, we'll get into the tariff increases. But are you happy with the overall number? Let's start there, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you very much, and greetings to you and to the viewers at home. Thank you very much for having us. Indeed, our budget that I tabled yesterday is 17.1 billion rand. And 7.1 billion rand of which will be dedicated to capital projects to help us address water and electricity as well as sanitation infrastructure. We also have set aside money to address issues of roads upgrade as well as to deal with the storm, what we call the storm drainage system that was damaged by floods. So I think that's all what we could raise as a city. Of course, we couldn't go beyond this without punishing our residents already. And our residents are complaining that now our tariffs are starting to become unaffordable. And we couldn't go beyond it. If it was not because of uMngeni Water that imposed hefty penalties, or sort of hefty increases on us, would have really been very considerate to our residents, because we understand the situation that they live under. There is high rate of unemployment, and we've just come out of floods, social unrest, as well as, COVID. So I understand the situation very well. So this is all what we could come up with as a city, so that we can be able to sustain the delivery of services to the people of eThekwini.
Yeah, and if you'll let me just perhaps to crunch some of the numbers, and you can assist us with how you got to a certain digit and what concerns you have. So if we focus on water, as you have already started with the matter around uMngeni, the proposed increase by uMngeni-uThukela Water Board is at 13.5%. But what you have essentially done is then proposed an increase of 15% for residential consumers, 16% for businesses. How did you come to those numbers for the residents? Yeah.
Well, as you know that any tariff that you imposed must be cost reflective. In other words, you look at the cost of producing the service and then add 1 or 2% to take into account the cost of transporting the service to the consumers. In this case, and the uMngeni increase was 13.5%. We only added 1.5% in respect of our residents, moving it from 13.5% to 15.5%. In fact, 15%. It was just added 1.5%. So that's what we did as a city. The same thing happens with electricity. Electricity, we got 11.72% from 11.72% from uMngeni, and we simply increased by just about over 1% to move up to 13.75%. And because we understand that we couldn't do more than just 1 or 2% as our markup, because if we went beyond that, it was going to be too much for our residents. But we are still taking the matter up with uMngeni as well as the electricity utility, because we're not happy with the increases that they've actually imposed on us. It is too much if you consider the state of the economy, as well as it's way above inflation. But they came to us and said, look, this is also what they cannot do without taking into account and the cost of delivering electricity to the municipalities. And so we went to Water, and Water said, look, we are also a price taker from electricity, because we buy electricity from Eskom, and Eskom gave us this hefty increase, and we have to pass this hefty increase to the municipality. So they claim that they are a price taker, where we also claim that we are a price taker. That's the whole value chain. So it means that if we don't address the issue of uMngeni, the Eskom, and the cost that Eskom has to put up with, and it means that the country will continue to have to put up with such increases. It really hurts the economy, but there's very little we can do as the city. And I understand that Eskom is also trying to grapple with ensuring that the country, the supply of electricity to the country is sustainable. And they thought that what they're proposing is what can actually get electricity and the country, to the people in the country, out of load shedding, as it were.
Yeah, and you talk about load shedding, and I immediately think about, well, for residents, say, of Umlazi or Westville that are listening to this conversation, they're hoping that tariff increase or not, that their water availability is something that sees some sort of improvement. And you can talk to me about where you are right now with rationing in Umlazi, Westville, Queensburg, and other areas in eThekwini, but also what that means for infrastructure maintenance moving forward, which is a lot of the time also a massive problem that impacts on water supply.
Well, see, as we explained previously, that the city has faced, unprecedented floods in the recent past, since 2017 in particular, and where we experienced a 1 to 100-year rainfall, and when our system was built to cope with 1 to 10-year rainfall. So that was too much, and it damaged our infrastructure. And now each time when we trying to recover, and they will get more floods, I think so we have not been able to fully recover from the situation. As a result, some of our infrastructure was damaged in the process. And it happened at a time when the city was facing an aging infrastructure, as well as a rapid population growth. So that's a double sword. You have aging infrastructure, you also have a rapid urban growth that you now have to ensure that with the infrastructure that we have, you must still roll it out to people who come to the city. I think our infrastructure is taking a lot of strain, and we have now started to look at investing in our infrastructure and replacing old pipes, ensure that our PRVs work, as well as our reservoirs are able to pump water to all the areas that require water. Yes, there are areas that were experiencing some intermittent supply of water due to leakages And because when you have an aging infrastructure, you must know that your city will be prone to a number of bursts, which is what is happening as we speak. We have been experiencing a number of bursts that we have to cope with, and that has made a city to lose volumes of water. But we are dealing with it in cases where there is a low supply of water, low supply of water. Let me say low volumes. We have introduced rationing so that we are then able to redistribute water amongst our people. It's better to have water for some part of the day instead of not having water at all. Indeed, there are areas that have been made aware of that are still struggling to receive water, and the city is attending to these areas. With this budget, we think that it will enable the city to repair and replace the infrastructure so that we limit the burst, we improve service delivery to our people.
Yeah, I don't know what you make about some of the political parties, of course, in council responding to this budget. You do have, for instance, Zwakele Mgwango of Action SA saying that there is a sense that political parties are, and he used the words, it's a sneaky and deceitful tactic that has been used, where the budget was only brought to the councillors' attention yesterday in that council meeting, and so there was no prior discussion of it, and that this is a deceitful tactic to force councillors into voting on the draft budget without affording them the proper time to scrutinise and study it in detail. What do you say to that?
Well, they don't understand the process, Naledi. Remember, tomorrow was the day when the mayor was unveiling the budget for the first time. What will then follow from yesterday, the speaker will then refer the budget and all supporting documents to all councillors, and then charge council with the responsibility of consulting the public. And so after they've consulted the public, the councillors will come back to consider the budget and then approve it. Their time is yet to come. For now, we were just introducing the budget like it's done everywhere else. There is no prior consultation. The consultation is yet to happen, and that consultation is going to involve the public. The Constitution of the Republic says, and all the legislative bodies must facilitate public involvement in the decision making. So there's just no way the council could just discuss and close the debate without having listened to the people. And listening to the people is not a tick box exercise. You must go out to the people, subject this budget to the public, and that we listen to them, and then come back and say, these are the views of the public, and what do you do with the views of the public, considering all the competing needs of the city. Remember, it's not a situation of good and bad. It's a situation where you choose between good and good, and you have limited resources. So the way you apply those resources must take into account a number of factors so that you are also keeping a balance in the way you provide services to people. Otherwise, you emphasize on one at the expense of the other, and then you get complaints. So it's just a balancing act, and a very critical balancing act that this budget is trying to walk. And I hope that the committee will understand, but to prepare to listen to what they have to say. The time for the councillors to debate and to interrogate and debate the budget is coming. So they were just opportunistically and jumping the gun. Their time is now, yet after the budget has been tabled.
Yeah, and what a time it is, certainly, as we look at the national budget, of course, and you know, the back and forth that's happening there as we wait to see whether that will be passed tomorrow. But then that brings me to the question about whether or not you believe that this proposed budget that you've put on the table will pass when it is time to vote. Are you confident of that?
No, I'm confident, because I can tell you there's very little you can do with the numbers that we are proposing, because for the tariffs, most tariffs single-digit tariffs, and like we are saying, they are cost reflective. If it costs you 10 rand to provide a service, and if you recover 9 rand, then it means that your budget is not going to balance at the end of the day. So the least you could do is, if it costs you 10 rand, you must recover 10 rand. And anything less than that, you are just shooting yourself in the foot. And I don't think that's what the citizens or the residents of the city would want to see. They will not want to see the city and delivering a budget that is not going to be sustainable, financially speaking.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, is the issue of water is a price taker. The only thing we do is 1 or 2% just to cover the cost of sending, transporting the service to the residents.
All right.
That's all what you could do at the moment. Thanks.
All right. Well, we do appreciate your time, and we'll be watching as that process that you've described does unfold. Thank you so much for speaking to us. That there, Mr. Cyril Xaba, Mayor of eThekwini Municipality, speaking to us.